Jim Adams slowly made his way through the snowy streets, his thoughts wandering somewhere far away. Winter was gripping the city hard with cold, and he pulled his coat tighter around him. Suddenly, something strange snapped him out of his train of thought. Under the lamplight stood a mother and child, tightly wrapped in pale plaids, shivering with cold. Without a second thought, Jim stopped and came closer. What makes them be out here in this weather, he thought. The girl was young, looked tired, and there was a look of despair in her eyes. The little boy, holding her hand tightly, stared at the ground, not understanding what was happening. "Excuse me, what are you doing out here so late?" Jim asked, feeling the penetrating wind. Linda, first confused, then looking at him in disbelief, quickly shifted her gaze to her son and back to Jim. "We're homeless," she replied in a shaky voice. Jim's heart clenched with sympathy. He offered them shelter at his place to keep warm in some way. Linda doubted it, but there was sincerity in his eyes, and she nodded. Walking back, Jim realized that something had changed in his life. Back at his cozy home, he welcomed Linda and Casper inside. Linda felt warm for the first time in a long time, leaving the cold night behind the threshold. Casper looked around the room with curiosity, excitement in his eyes. "Welcome," Jim said warmly as he escorted them into the living room. "Tell me, how did you end up on the street?" Linda opened her story, recounting her husband's betrayal of her, who had left them out in the cold, and how they had wandered aimlessly through the city in search of shelter. Jim listened to Linda, feeling his heart ache at the vulnerability of little Casper. Her words, mixed with tears, filled the room with the weight of sincere conversation. "I'm so grateful to you," she confided. Her gaze, streaked with gratitude, met Jim's. "You're safe here," he replied confidently. "I'll help you in any way I can." The evening passed in a warm atmosphere, with conversation and treats. Jim shared his hobbies with Casper, including his collection of antique toys, which was his passion. The boy was enthralled as he studied the antique items. Linda watched her son enjoying himself as a child, and a spark of hope lit up in her eyes. After Casper went to bed, Linda and Jim sat by the fireplace. "You've done so much for us, Jim, but why?" she asked, looking into the flames. "I couldn't just pass it by," he replied. "I've always had a sense of truth in me, and I couldn't leave you in the lurch." "You are our guardian angel," Linda said quietly with a smile. The conversation grew deeper as Jim shared his experiences of loss and struggle. He talked about how he lost a close friend and how he found the strength to move on. "There's always hope in life," he said, "even when it seems like there's no way out. You'll get through anything." Linda and Jim were now bonded by a subtle understanding and trust that opened the door to a new future for both of them. When morning came, the sun gently awakened Linda and Casper in the warmth of Jim's home. Breakfast awaited them in the bright dining room overlooking the garden, and the smell of fresh baked goods enveloped the kitchen. "Stay here as long as you need to," Jim suggested. Linda, watching Casper's joy as he merrily devoured the waffles, said thank you, but she was overwhelmed with conflicting feelings. An unexpected turn of events had turned this house into their sanctuary, and she felt confused. Time flowed slowly, but each day was filled with meaning. Jim had created a play corner for Casper, where the boy could escape into a fantasy world among the antique toys. A fire of conversations flared between Linda and Jim as they shared thoughts and dreams. One evening, as the rain pounded on the windows, they sat by the fireplace. "I'm so grateful for everything, Jim, but I can't take the house away from you and just accept your help," Linda admitted. "I couldn't get past it. And now I want to help you get a fresh start." With those words, he showed his willingness to be a pillar of support for Linda and Casper. He offered Linda a position in his firm, a chance for a fresh start. This offer caused her a flurry of emotion. Linda was filled with gratitude, but simultaneously gripped with fear of new challenges. I realize this is a big step. I don't want you to feel indebted to me, Jim said. Just give me the opportunity to be a part of your new beginning, he added confidently. Step by step, they began to move forward, with Linda taking on a new role in the company and Casper making friends in this warm and friendly place. In time, they formed into something of a family. Jim provided them with not only a roof over their heads, but a belief in a new beginning. Their story inspired coworkers and acquaintances who watched them overcome obstacles together. But along with successes came new challenges. Linda continued to struggle with her past, but no longer alone. Her determination and courage became a guiding light for Jim and Casper. Their lives were unfolding, opening up new horizons. But it all began with that fateful meeting on a cold winter night that changed their lives day by day. With each passing day, the bond between Linda, Casper, and Jim grew stronger. They shared their thoughts, their joys, and Jim became more than a benefactor to them. He became a true friend. One evening, in the warmth of their home, Linda asked, "Why have you done so much for us? It's not like we're your family." Jim smiled as he looked into her eyes. "You may have been strangers, but I feel like there's more to us than that. I couldn't pass it by. And now I can't imagine my life without you." These words sounded to Linda and Casper like the most sincere truth. Jim had become a pillar for them, a symbol of a trustworthy man who restored their faith and goodness. Linda, inspired by new opportunities, delved deeper into her work at Jim's company, showing herself to be a talented leader who could apply her experience to the growth of the business. Casper also found his place, thanks to the support of new friends and Jim's mentorship in helping him unleash his creativity. Linda and Jim's evenings were often spent by the fireplace, where they shared not only current affairs, but also talked about the future and what they wanted to accomplish together. Something more than just friendship or partnership awoke in their relationship. They became an integral part of each other's lives. One day, after dinner, Jim stood up and said, "Linda, I have a proposition for you." Her look was full of anticipation. "I want you to be my co-founder. You've contributed so much to the business that we can't do without you. Together we can do more," he said confidently. Linda was stunned. She never thought that her life's journey would lead to such a turn. With gratitude and excitement, she agreed, realizing that new horizons were opening up before them. In the months that followed, they worked together on strategy, developed new projects, and watched their shared business flourish. This journey was not only a professional achievement for them, but also strengthened their relationship, turning their union into something truly special. But despite the business and the worries, Jim realized that his feelings for Linda were growing deeper. He realized that she was not just a business partner to him, but the woman who had changed his life. Together they experienced the joys of success and overcame challenges. They became a team that not only works together, but supports each other in every circumstance. This chapter of their story was a time of intense growth, both professionally and personally. Linda and Jim continued their life together, wrapped in the warmth of the family hearth. The days were filled with Casper's laughter, the joy of traveling together, and the peace of their cozy home. However, they encountered an unexpected situation. One day Linda approached Jim with a piece of paper in her hands, on which were written numbers and graphs. "Jim, we have a chance to expand the business, but to do that, we need additional investment." Jim looked at the paper, then at Linda, and his eyes lit up with determination. We've always dealt with difficulties together. They decided to put all their efforts into expanding the company. Jim, as CEO, took over the business, and Linda became responsible for strategic planning. Linda and Jim, united by common goals and dreams, created not only a successful business, but also a strong family. Their wedding was a reflection of the bond that developed between them throughout their time working and living together. Casper, who witnessed and participated in their story, joyfully welcomed Jim into his life, finding in him not only a stepfather, but a true friend and mentor. Traveling together and new family traditions strengthened their bond and created unforgettable memories. Each New Year's Eve was not just an occasion to celebrate business successes, but also a moment to reflect on personal happiness and gratitude for all they had. Jim's baby proposal was a natural step in their life together. Linda, full of joy and anticipation, supported the idea, and together they began preparing for this new phase in their lives. They knew they wanted to give their child the same love and care they had given Casper. Their home, already full of warmth and happiness, was preparing to welcome a new family member. Linda and Jim continued to work on the development of their company, but also paid attention to planning for their family's future. They both knew that it was important to find a balance between career and personal life, and tried to maintain that balance so that their child would grow up in an atmosphere of love and harmony. Their story continued, reminding everyone that fortitude, shared values, and love can overcome any obstacle. Linda and Jim remained an inspiring example to all who knew them, proving that even in the business world there is room for true feelings and family values. Casper became a big brother, supporting his younger siblings, and there was always an atmosphere of love and understanding in their home. They helped others by participating in charity events and creating opportunities for those who needed help. The sunset that evening was special. The family sat on the patio and looked up at the bright red sky. Jim was hugging Linda, and the children were laughing as they shared their impressions of the day. Their story that began on a cold winter night had turned into a colorful canvas of happiness, love, and prosperity. They were able to overcome all the difficulties, and now there is a new beginning in their lives, filled with hope and long-awaited happiness.